Out. Stay with me here. What we have is the big story, obviously, of Donald Trump's attempted assassination on Saturday before the White House Press Center, White House Correspondents' Center, whatever you want to call it. But the story that got knocked off the headlines because of that was the Southern Poverty Law Center being exposed as funding hatred and creating this whole Potemkin village of white supremacy that they pretended to fight against. And they raised a lot of money and got rich doing so. But do you already see the connection between those two stories? Would there be 3 assassination attempts against President Trump by mentally unstable people? If not, for the lie that displaced America in 2026, I guess 2025 for context, is teeming with racism, is run by white supremacists. The whole system is racist against minorities. The whole system is set up against women and foreigners and whatever else. It's just there to benefit straight white Christian men, and they're the evilest thing that ever eviled. And without the support of the SPLC, without them funding the KKK, without them funding neo-Nazis, without them funding their rallies and Unite the Right and helping them plan and helping the transportation and logistics, would these people have even been freaked out enough to go shoot Trump or Charlie Kirk? You know, we all agree that the rhetoric has a lot to do with why the bullets are flying. And it's not just enough to say, well, we've got to tone down the rhetoric. But it's also kind of important to recognize that the gas was thrown on the fire by the left, by the Southern Poverty Law Center, by MSNBC and CNN and the people who run with this narrative, the people who fall for it. Because the pushback that you hear, and the only card that they have left to play in their deck, is this whole both sides thing. And you've heard the both sides. We were playing it yesterday, and the claim is, well, I know that we've seen a couple of attempts against Trump's life here, but we have all these studies. The Cato Institute says, or some other institute says, or the Anti-Defamation League says, you know, some of the sources that were used in these reports included the Southern Poverty Law Center. So Batya Ungar-Sargon, she's on, I think it's News Nation, but please don't kill me. Newsmax, maybe? One of those. One of the second-tier news networks. She dug through. Now, there's going to be one little clip in the audio here, but she says SPLC. You just hear her, like, her microphone slip. But she's saying Southern Poverty Law Center in this one funky edit. And I don't know. I couldn't fix it. It was her microphone. But she broke down the major studies that have been cited by The Economist and the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post and the New York Times and ABC, NBC, CBS and Mediasan and The View and all these. You have no idea how flawed these studies are.
When you dig down into that data, it is so deeply flawed. Let me just give you a few examples, okay? The Prosecution Project, supposed to list all of the acts of political violence in America, does not list Charlie Kirk's assassination, does not list Trump's assassination attempts, does not list any George Floyd violence. 24 Americans lost their lives during those riots, not listed. But every white nationalist who's a drug dealer, that gets listed. So they list 33 white Aryan Nation people who had a meth lab. This is political violence because they happen to be white nationalists. All right, Cato does not list the 9/11 victims, does not list any George Floyd violence. Center for Strategic and International Studies, where does it get its data from? The ADL, highly partisan, and the Southern, which just was revealed to have allegedly been funding the very racists that they were supposed to be fighting. And finally, I just have to mention this, the Center for Strategic and International Studies has in its methodology section, it says all anti-Semitism is right-wing. Any attacks on Jews or Jewish institutions, they reclassified it. If it was in the name of Palestinians, they reclassified it as ethno-nationalist. So by their definition, there's no such thing as left-wing anti-Semitism, which we all know is just nonsense. This is the data. It is flawed. Shame on the Wall Street Journal and shame on The Economist, because they're giving a flawed view. And I totally agree with Katie. We can't, it would be so nice to say, kumbaya, we all share the problem. You cannot fix a problem if you are lying about what it is.
That's how bad the data set is. And people are using this so they don't have to have the discussion, so they don't have to change their worldview, so they don't even have to acknowledge that the problem exists. Oh, yeah, so there's been some political violence. Yeah, well, your side does it too. And look, I have this study that backs me up. When she was talking about the Aryan Brotherhood getting added to the list for political violence, she took a screenshot of how it's listed in the study that she was dismantling, and she pasted it in the middle of her column. She wrote a column. That's why she was a guest on that show yesterday. But let me read this to you. So back in May of 2019, there was an Aryan Brotherhood situation where 33, this is what it says in the database where they're trying to convince you that there's more right-wing political violence than left-wing. 33 individuals were charged in connection to methamphetamine manufacturing and distribution network that supported the Aryan Brotherhood. This sting included dealers and distributors and those with and without direct ties to the Aryan Brotherhood. Of the 33 arrested, 31 formally indicted. It appears that the sale of meth was being used to fund Aryan Brotherhood related activities. So in the database of right-wing political violence, you have 33 guys who didn't commit an act of violence, much less politically motivated. I mean, is there a politically motivated drug sale? Is that even possible? But there's not even any violence in this. And who says the Aryan Brotherhood is right-wing? Do any right-wingers claim the Aryan Brotherhood? Or are they just your run-of-the-mill fascists? They just happen to be racist as well, which fits right in with where the Democrat Party was in the 1930s, not even 100 years ago. They would have been perfect mainstream Democrats. Oh, really? You want government to have much control and regulation over private industry? Now, you don't want to abolish private property, so you're not a communist. But then on top of that, you don't hate your own country. In fact, you probably love your country a little too much. It's because these people, these white supremacists, the Nazis, the white nationalists, these guys are just your regular Democrats, but racist. They're just your regular old left-wing socialists. They're AOC, but racist, which is historically a Democrat and left position to begin with. So nothing about them is right-wing except they don't hate their country. But that gets counted. So if you count that, but you don't count all the Tesla fire bombings, all the George Floyd riots, all the assassination attempts against Trump and Charlie, and the successful one against Charlie Kirk, if you don't go through and count all the left-wing violence and you overcount right-wing violence, then yes, you can come up with a study that says we have a problem on both sides. Problem is, a lot of people are using this right now to not even have the discussion. And it's hard. You know how hard that is? To get a human being to admit when they're wrong. You know how powerful the human ego is, and we're just ingrained. You don't want to lose the argument, or you don't want to look foolish, or you don't want to admit you were wrong. I don't think any of this is breaking through. How do we break through that? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'll continue with the reaction to the Trump assassination attempt. And really the disappointing takeaway is that I don't think it's going to get better. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Expect more political violence. No one's doing anything to stop it. Why would it change? I'm James Parker. You're listening to The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Check them out, 11 to 2 weekdays on WBAP. But, you know, if it's the rhetoric that got us here, with 3 assassination attempts that got too close for comfort on Trump, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you know, those are the big ones. But don't discount the minor waves of violence. And by minor waves of violence, all the Tesla fire bombings. You know, all the times someone got their Tesla keyed. Remember when that was a thing for about a month during Doge? Let's go key a Tesla. And you saw dozens of people getting themselves in trouble because the Tesla was recording them keying the door. Ridiculous. So the violence is coming just overwhelmingly from one side. I don't want to say all of it because someone's going to pipe up, what about Melissa Hortman? Or someone's going to say Buffalo or El Paso, which Buffalo and El Paso were not right-wingers. They were white supremacists, but they were your run-of-the-mill eco-terrorist, vegan white supremacists. They weren't killing black people and brown people because they thought whites were superior. They just weren't killing white people because we didn't have a high enough birth rate. We were already killing ourselves off, and he just hates all humans, period. So they're just a psychopath. But even if you want to bring that up, look what we have just in the last 2 years. Heck, just in the last 12 months. So if the rhetoric is what got us here, then you would necessarily have to think that the rhetoric would have to change in order for the political violence to change. It's not. So your conclusion should be expect more violence. I just find it such an accelerating factor knowing that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been propping up these racist groups, amplifying them, funding them, organizing them, and then reporting on them, and then making sure they're in the media. Like some of the biggest names, and there's not a whole lot. Like who would you say is the biggest white supremacist out there right now on the scene? I don't know. Maybe Nick Fuentes. I mean, maybe David Duke. But when's the last time he had an interview anywhere at all on any platform of note? Nick Fuentes didn't exist as a media figure until Charlottesville. And when that happened, all these media outlets rushed to Charlottesville and they rushed to, can we talk to someone from the Unite the Right rally and get their take on it? No, we don't want to talk to the mom who's just concerned about the rewriting of history. No, we don't want to talk about the traditional guy who doesn't want to tear down statues regardless of the message behind him. No, can we find someone that's a hateful little white supremacist racist? Who is it? Nick Fuentes? Fine, let's put him on. And they basically created this guy. And it's all been funded. Would there be an assassination of Charlie Kirk without the Southern Poverty Law Center funding this? The gross part is maybe not. But I want to remind you, this is how CBS News reported on the manifesto. The manifesto that specifically talked about Trump, that specifically included the mainstream Democrat talking points. It looks like your typical leftist friend on Facebook. He's a pedophile. He's a rapist. I don't understand how anyone can. He lies all the time. It sounded like just if I turn on MSNBC right now or M Snow right now, that's what his manifesto sounded like. CBS News reported it to leave you with the impression that, boy, we got to do something about gun safety.
In an email to family, timed to be sent just before the incident, police say the suspect himself expressed surprise at the security footprint. He wrote, "I walk in with multiple weapons and not a single person there considers the possibility that I could be a threat. The security at the event is all outside because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before."
So 60 Minutes had Trump the day after the shooting, and they go read the part of the manifesto that's just Trump insults. Thanks a lot. Real good. Good job, guys.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read, Mr. President. He appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this, quote, "Administration officials, they are targets." And he also wrote this, "I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes." What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people. horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
But, oh,
I'm not a
do you think he was
pedophile.
referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, you know, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, you know, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I
these
was
are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead, let's finish the interview.
Yeah, I'm just reading the manifesto. The part where it says you're a rapist and pedophile and a traitor. Did you catch that in there where she says, oh, why would you think he's talking about you? Well, I don't know. It's in a manifesto where he's already mentioned him 10 times, mentioned that he's the primary target and he's trying to assassinate him. Yeah, I think he's the center of attention and just may be the subject of the manifesto and the assassination attempt against him. Listen to that part.
You're horrible people. Horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
But, oh, do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me.
Oh, you think he was referring to you? Oh, just all indignant? Yes, we all know he was referring to him. Don't act like, oh, quit hitting yourself. Oh, aren't you kind of admitting you're a rapist? Oh, so when someone says rapist, you automatically think yourself? Why would you think that? It's so dishonest. It's so sleazy. And it's so transparently partisan and political. There's an amazing case to be made. Like, I'm not for censorship, but you should be able to sue someone for fraud if they claim to be a news outlet and they are this partisan. Then it's not news. And why do they do this? Because propaganda works a lot better when the audience doesn't know it's propaganda. Propaganda sinks in more when your defense is down and you think you're watching news. If they came out and they told you this is the 60 minutes of Team Blue propaganda, well, then it wouldn't work as well now, would it? Regular, normal, well-intended people wouldn't come away with the idea that, well, if our journalists, say so, or if these respected news outlets say so. They're not respected. They're not news outlets, and they're not journalists. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. A lot of people still aren't convinced this wasn't staged. Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, Texas homeowners, James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. We have terrible weather continuing today. We had terrible weather yesterday. I know there's quite a few people in Mineral Wells right now who need a new roof. If you were anywhere near that mess, you probably need an inspection. If you are missing one shingle from your roof, you need an inspection. If you have any doubts whatsoever, if you see one dent in your roof, you need an inspection. And listen, the inspection's free. So if you get up there and it's like, yeah, there's a couple bumps, there's a couple dents in there, but you definitely don't need a new roof. You don't have any leaks. Everything looks great. We took some pictures. Then it doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time. It's also going to help because when you do need a new roof, you've set a baseline so they can prove that the damage happened at least since the date when you called them in April of 2026. So it starts with you. If you were anywhere in that bad weather, you got any of that big hail, go to blueribbondfw.com. Expect the violence to continue until rhetoric improves. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And I want you to mush together in your mind the two biggest stories of the last week. And that is the Southern Poverty Law Center funding the exact same groups it was telling the outside world they were fighting against. Couple that with the third attempt that got close on your president's life on Saturday. And the people that are going out there and firing these shots are not just repeating some of the things they hear on TV. They're repeating false things that they hear on TV. And their motivations for shooting Trump are based on false premises, or at least wildly inflated and hyperbolic premises, if you want to be the most generous about it. And so if the rhetoric is causing this, and that's what a lot of people think, that's probably what you think, it at least contributes to it, then toning down the rhetoric wouldn't necessarily make the situation better. Sure. But how do we get them to do that? I don't think we can force them to do that. This is why I'm so fascinated with conversion stories. You know, you hear me every once in a while play a conversion story where some girl come on, she'll say, like, I was a feminist, and then I met some guy and fell in love, and now all of a sudden I don't want to work and I want to have babies. That's why I'm so focused on that. Real quick, we just have a new severe thunderstorm warning. We're going to get you caught up on that, and then we'll get right back to the news. We go to the Storm Center for Operation Stormwatch. All right, we're back now to the James Show, picking up where I left off. I wanted to play you this quick conversion story. These little viral videos get tossed around, and I love hearing these because I want to learn what made them finally pierce that bubble around them, what made them finally crack that egg and just open their mind to the fact that maybe you and I aren't racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, Nazi, apartheid, literally Hitlers. Maybe we just want a smaller government.
I'm no longer a Democrat because I'm a liberal. At this point, it's beginning to feel like I'd be better off voting Republican and fighting against bad ideas within the Republican Party than voting Democrat and fighting against bad ideas inside the Democratic Party. For example, when I bring up concerns I have with friends on the right about like LGBT rights, immigration issues, abortion, gun control, more often than not, there is room for finding some kind of a middle ground. But when I bring up concerns I have with people on the left about anti-Semitism, Islamism, communism, more often than not, the response is either intimidation, condescension, or just a demand for complete obedience. When your politics require people to submit to orthodoxy, that is not liberalism. That is fascism.
Coming up next, you're going to hear from the Accuracy in Media Group. They were one of the ones targeted as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And let's see if they feel a little redemption in the new charges that were filed last week. I'm James Parker. You're listening to The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So you want to hear from someone who was put on a hate list by the Southern Poverty Law Center? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You need to meet my next guest. Adam Gillett's coming back in from Accuracy in Media. Now, he's been on the James Show before because they do such good work over there. They do the little exposés where you bust people saying, yeah, we still have our DEI program at University of North Texas. We just had to rename a couple of classes and we're getting away with it. But I'm having him on today because you're in one of the groups that was targeted by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and you probably have some strong opinions about their indictment last week. Yeah, and so there's it's not just being put on a list. There were some organizations that were unable to maintain their bank account because they got debanked because someone leaned on them. They're like, "Hey, you're providing services to this hate group." See, they're just like the neo-Nazis. And so I forgot who it was. It was like Moms in Liberty or the Family Research Counselors. Someone lost their bank account. Well, see, this is what we're dealing with now in the wake of the third assassination attempt against President Trump is we're trying to say, hey, y'all have a problem with political violence on your side. And you get thrown back in your face. No, it's a both sides issue. You know, you guys have your own problems as well. And this study over here says so. But one of the sources for the studies, many of these studies is the Southern Poverty Law Center, obviously not really a reliable source. So, did y'all experience any noticeable or significant negative consequences after getting listed? Well, we're talking with Adam Gillett from Accuracy in Media. You know, I keep track of some of these things that you guys are doing especially if it's in my own backyard. And y'all seem to have found a nice little niche with uncovering dishonest people in academia, whether it's professors or administrators or whoever else it is. Because I think last time I had you on, it was for University of North Texas. But this has happened everywhere. Y'all have Columbia, y'all have Kansas, y'all have Florida, Arizona, North Carolina. What's NKU? I don't even know what that one is. But yeah, this. Well, Adam, I'm just going to have to try harder here. I find the reporting from you guys very inspiring. I just got to do more. I'm not on any hate list. I haven't been swatted once, and I've got to do better, sir. I appreciate it. All right. You can find more of his work at Accuracy and Media, AIM.org. All right, make it a summer of live music. Get $30 tickets to some of the hottest shows this year, like Jimmy Eat World, Guns N' Roses, Billy Idol, Motley Crue, Tim McGraw, and more. The offer runs April 29th through May 5th, 1 week only. Go to livenation.com/summer of live to learn more. Not Summer of Love, Summer of Live. $30 tickets to all those shows. All right, coming up next on The James Show, we have, locally speaking, some more controversy that's kind of floating up around our budget issues. Apparently, Dallas is broke now. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, Dallas is broke. What are we going to do about it? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. In a story that sounds like it's kind of a local focus, let's talk about what's happening in our own backyard. It's the same story that's happening all across the country right now. And there's always going to be this push and this pull. If you're a position in power, if you're the mayor of a city, if you're in the city council, you'd like to have as much money as possible to spend because you think you're doing good with it. Whether you're actually doing good with it or you're just hooking up your donors so you can get more donations the next election cycle, it's still a good thing for you, at least, spending money. They always want to spend money. Now, conversely, you're not in City Hall and you're not the mayor. You're the poorest sap that's getting taxed. So it is in your best interest for them to spend as little as money as possible and hopefully, therefore, take less money from you. So thus is the delicate balance that is being had in all city halls and all county halls and all state legislatures and even in the federal halls of D.C. The push versus pull of spending. D.C. is a different story. They can spend as much as they want, and if they don't have enough revenue to cover it, they can print money. However, at the state and local level, hard choices have to be made. So we have the city of Dallas is claiming to be broke right now. Hey, most cities can claim that. Most cities can say we don't have any extra money because you bring in all this money and all you got to do is spend it all and then you're broke. That doesn't mean there's a problem with your revenue necessarily. Doesn't even necessarily mean there's a problem with your spending. It's just the natural order of things.
The week after city leaders toured the heart of finance, the city of Dallas now says it has a money problem. It just announced a hiring freeze, overtime restrictions, and suspension of non-essential purchases and travel.
City manager is going to have to get creative and literally cut any kind of excess that we have in the city this year to make this budget work.
Councilmember Chad West says these changes at City Hall are proactive. The budget is not in crisis.
I see this budget process being a tightening of the belt, just like every other American's doing right now in this economy.
Like all wallet woes, the city blames several factors. Pay and OT for cops and firefighters is $14 million over budget. So is healthcare cost. And people are buying less than the city expected, meaning millions fewer sales tax dollars.
When staff made that prediction on the sales tax revenues, it was before the economy took a negative turn that it has.
West says the so-called hero propositions mandating the city increase pay to first responders and hire more officers is contributing too.
Proposition S and U were certainly a factor in that.
The city's largest police association says, quote, our officers are not the cause of budget challenges. They're the reason the city continues to function safely despite them. Dallas is not alone. Fort Worth froze hiring last month, too. But it is a sign next year's budget will be painful, West says.
I think it's an indication into how difficult these discussions are going to be in August.
When money for libraries, parks, and pools will be on the line. In Dallas, I'm Cole Sullivan.
Cut them all. Cut government. It really isn't that, there's going to be some difficult discussions. Not if I'm in the room. Y'all have money to put up a traffic light for a stupid bicycle? There's a bicycle traffic light over here by the Tom Thumb at the American Airlines Center. To negotiate the traffic coming from a bike lane that doesn't have any bikes in it. Like, I see wasted money just thrown all over the place. You should sit over here. You should sit at the American Airlines Center. Just come out for one day and go sit at this train station where if there's a Mavericks game or a Stars game or a concert, there will be a few full trains. For almost the entirety of the rest of the day, it's just empty trains, just pulling up. No one's on them. No one's getting on. No one's getting off. The door's open. There's nothing happening. The door's closed and it takes off. It's all a show. We have bike lanes over here with no bikes in them. We have trains that are empty. We have buses that are empty. Look at all the empty buses that are down here. And I like Jeepers. I don't know if we have money for cops and firefighters and potholes, but you got $81 million for a WNBA practice facility. And so here's the next warning. You're always going to be told by the powers that be, Jeepers, I guess our hands are forced. We're going to have to raise taxes.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget.
That's a lie. That is not the only way you can balance your budget is by getting more revenue. Pretty much everything he said in there is a lie. You don't have a budget crisis. You don't have a shortcoming of revenue. You know the budget for New York City in 2010 was in New York City. These are ballpark numbers, so don't be like it was 98 billion. It was about $100 billion in 2010. It's about $150 billion worth of revenue now. Your revenue's gone up 50% in the last 15 years. You don't have a problem with revenue. Your revenue's not declining. Your revenue's not staying the same while your population is growing. Your revenue is through the roof. You do not have a revenue problem. You, sir, have a spending problem, and it's not a crisis. You've invented all kinds of programs just since you've been in office in the last couple of months. Would you think they were going to pay for themselves? So you're going to hear similar cases being made, and this is why we pay so much attention to what goes on sometimes in New York City or in Houston or in Los Angeles or Portland or Seattle. Because in the marketplace of ideas, this is a pure demonstration of the economic flat earthism that comes from Team Blue. And they are always going to have some new excuse to get more of your money. Coming up next on The James Show, from Real Clear Politics, we're going to talk to James Varney and talk about the assassination attempt on Trump's life, the rhetoric surrounding it, how this is affecting the polls, and more on the political front from realclearpolitics.com. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, between the Southern Poverty Law Center, the assassination attempt, Iran, the economy, how is this all going to affect and play out in politics and in the midterms? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And one of the great places to get political commentary and especially a breakdown of the latest polls is RealClearPolitics.com. And my next guest is from Real Clear. James Varney's coming back on. And Varnes, we had another assassination attempt over the weekend. I think most of us agree that this is a sign that we need to tone down the rhetoric. I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think most of Team Blue even thinks there's a problem with the rhetoric. Sarah Palin's map. Yeah. Well, I think it's more disconcerting that he wasn't, or he doesn't seem to be as crazy as some of these other people, you know, like some of the trans shooters or the guy that shot Charlie Kirk or the school shooter that we had at West Virginia or Virginia Tech those years ago. You know, he did just a completely crazy rant that wasn't even you weren't even able to follow it. He was so crazy. This guy's manifesto read like what was on MSNBC last night. He didn't seem crazy at all. In fact, he seemed like if this is your worldview, it's actually kind of logical. I mean, if you literally think Hitler is in charge of this country, to go take out Hitler would make you a hero. So he's actually not even a crazy person. He's just bought into the mainstream talking points from Team Blue. Could be anything. Is there something wrong with our message? No. I'm just saying, like, is there something we could do to tone down our rhetoric that would make us less of a target? Tap the brakes. Well, look, I don't want to be like the narcissist that can't admit that there's something we could do different that could help the situation too. I don't want to be like it's all the other team's fault, but I just honestly can't think of anything we could do different to stop this. Luigi, yeah. All right, we're talking with James Varney from RealClearPolitics.com. Here's what I kind of get disgusted when you put these two stories together. Would there be this many assassination attempts? Would there be this much political violence? Would there be all the fire bombings of the Tesla dealerships and the deplatforming of right wingers if not for the fomented straw men from the Southern Poverty Law Center? Yeah. Varney, all right, Varney, stick with me for another segment. I want to ask you about your work here on the fraud that's happening in your neck of the woods because you're down in the New Orleans area. And just like the Nick Shirley situation, just like we have a ton of these door knockers up here in North Texas that are busting people for running fake scams or home health care or daycare or H-1B. We've got all that going. You have it going in your backyard, and your stories are crazy. So we'll continue with James Varney from RealClearPolitics.com next on The James Show, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So be prepared to hear some ridiculous stories about your tax dollars being flushed down the toilet. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. We're continuing with my buddy James Varney from RealClearPolitics.com and Real Clear Investigations. And coming up after I'm done with you, Varney, we're actually going to show another one of the investigations that's happened here. And it's been so fun because we have independent journalists that are now looking up information in databases online and then going and knocking on the doors. It's like, hey, there's supposed to be 214 H-1B visa employees here. This looks like a 2-bedroom house. And they're like, me no speak English. And then they shut the door. It's hilarious, right? But you have your own flavor of it going on. You're based out of the New Orleans area. And I didn't realize the specificity of what was going on, but I knew it would be ridiculous because that place is nuts. Well, one of the concerns we had when we all saw the Nick Shirley videos over the Christmas break is this is just one set of programs in one city in one state. This is probably happening in every major city in America. And so what do we have? What would you say, like 100 major cities where this is happening at least? Yeah, the and there's like feeding starving children fund or whatever. Yeah, Feed Our Future. Sally Struthers or whatever started that, I think. But a couple of things that we all find disgusting without me even having to tell people is how easy it is to scam people. And it out of every program, whether it's food stamp fraud, Feeding Our Futures, home health care fraud, daycare fraud, medical transportation fraud, hospice fraud, there seems to be absolutely no checks, no balances, no oversight, and no mechanism to even catch the fraud. Yeah, well, we have some coming up because one of the reporters, The Blaze, is based out of here, Glenn Beck's outfit, and one of his reporters, Sarah Gonzalez, she goes to this air quote daycare center in Allen, which is a northern suburb. The dude is driving like a Rolls Gold. It looks like a Lambo, but it's a BMW with the wing doors that slide up, and yeah. So we're going to be talking about that next. But just give me a couple minutes. I haven't read the article you put out a couple weeks ago. Are you hinting here that we might be getting another Alaskan pipeline? What was that about? All right, James Varney from Real Clear Politics. Appreciate it, sir. Thanks for your assist the last couple of segments. I look forward to reading more of your work. Coming up next, you're going to hear from that investigation. Sarah Gonzalez from The Blaze and Texas Scorecard is busting a fake daycare run by a Chinese national with connections to the Chinese Communist Party, and he's driving off, and it looked like a Lambo, but I think technically it's a BMW, but it has the rose gold chrome paint, like he just pulled it out of the garage in Grand Theft Auto. It's hilarious and enraging at the same time. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We have more fraud of your tax dollars being exposed here in North Texas. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins with stories that you're not going to hear from the rest of the media on WBAP from 11 to 2. But in this one, it's our friend Sarah Gonzalez at it again. And she's with the Blaze Media and with Texas Scorecard. We've had her on the show plenty of times. I've met her. I've probably seen her at events 10 times how about this? 5 times in the last year easily. Because I saw her at CPAC. I saw her at that the election night thing. I saw her at the fundraiser for Beau French. I saw her. So she has just been killing it. And in today's expose, she goes to Allen, where there's a daycare that supposedly has a ton of kids and also has dozens of H-1B employees. But when you show up, there's no sign. There's no cars in the parking lot. I mean, there's some signs on the building, but they don't say this is a daycare. And it looks like trash. Like these buildings look like something that it's maybe a body shop on the terrible part of town. But, there's not really a terrible part of town when it comes to Allen. And it's just so bad how transparent it is, because when you look in the parking lot, the guy escapes the questions by hiding out in his sports car. It looks like a $300,000 sports car. It's some BMW Roadster that I don't know cars that well, y'all. But it looks like a Lambo in the fact that, how Lamborghinis have the doors that go up instead of out. They kind of butterfly up or wing up, or you would think I know what that's called. I promise I'm straight. But it's an awesome car that I'll never be able to afford. You'll never be able to afford. And he has that from a daycare, from his great windfall of a daycare. Doesn't make sense. So instead of trying to piece it together for you over the long 1-hour expose, Michael Quinn Sullivan of Texas Scorecard chewed it all up and spit it out on TexasScorecard.com. I'll just play his summary for you real quick.
A North Texas daycare operator with alleged ties to the Chinese Communist Party is facing scrutiny over dozens of H-1B visa filings tied to his company, including for positions that appear unrelated to child care operations. Blaze TV and Texas Scorecard personality Sarah Gonzalez visited the Allen Infant Care Center, which was formerly known as the Golden Acorn Academy.
They have sponsored lifetime 37 H-1Bs. They have filled out 55 labor condition applications, according to USCIS. The thing that is so curious about this one, when you go digging in the data and the LCAs, is that you wouldn't think that a daycare center would need, market research analysts or supply chain analysts. And yet, this company actually told the United States government that they needed foreign workers to fill those jobs.
When confronted on camera, the daycare owner Yan Yao declined to answer detailed questions.
So why do you have 37 H-1Bs for a daycare that's totally shut down and another one that doesn't look like it's at all active? Is it?
This is before. This daycare just closed and will be new open.
A whistleblower familiar with the business operations claimed that Yao sells visas to foreigners for $20,000.
And there's the grift. These guys come over here, they get your money from welfare, and then they circumvent your immigration laws by coming up with fake jobs and getting other foreigners who shouldn't be here, who don't pass the smell test, who are coming in above and beyond the numbers that you and I have agreed to legally allow in here just through the standard immigration system. You're just getting screwed 3 ways from Sunday. And you're paying for all of it. Now, Sarah Gonzalez, at the end of her report here, rubs a lot of salt into the wound. Look, this is a good report. I don't blame her for doing it. But if this doesn't make you mad, then you're probably not paying attention. These people were getting PPP loans.
You for scamming my system. Here are a few other tidbits about this company. They had PPP loans in both the first and second round of the loans, given and forgiven upwards of $100,000. They had a 2022 bankruptcy filing. On top of that, a lot of their employees are listed elsewhere, including Los Angeles, California. I'm not sure what someone living in LA could actually do for a daycare center, but I'd like to find out. Interestingly enough, there was one LCA that was filed that I guess would fit the vibe of this place for a kindergarten teacher. But then the obvious question becomes, why would you need to import a foreign kindergarten teacher? You can't find it here? Well,
Yeah, there you go. So they're taking your jobs, they're taking your tax money, they're taking your emergency PPP loan money. They're lying to your face about it. They're taking your real estate, they're taking your land, they're bringing in a foreign religion, discounting yours, they're taking over your schools. We're just chumps, aren't we? We are just absolute chumps. You should see the car that dude drove off in. I was trying to look it up there. I think it's a BMW i8 Roadster, and those are called gull wing doors. I guess like seagull, or is there any other gull besides seagull? Is there like a land gull and I'm just not a very good ornithologist? Is there other gulls? Is there like a sky gull, seagull, land gull, lake gull, mountain gull, dirt gull? I don't know. But they're gull wing doors. It's a BMW i8, and it looks totally sweet. And I'm not operating out of a place of jealousy here. If you went out and earned it, God bless you for, being one of the luckiest people on the planet and being more successful than I ever was. However, he did not earn this. This was stolen from you. This is why you're going out making a real living, coming up with something real productive, generating real wealth. This foreigner comes in from China and starts stealing it from you, and then turn around and selling H-1B access to your country for $20,000 a pop. And now we're going to be told, Mondani's like, well, we've just got to raise taxes here. Well, we've got a budget crisis. Well, we have to, like in Dallas, we've got to stop with the police overtime because we're out of money. Well, stop giving it away. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Isn't that where you would start? All right, coming up in about 40 minutes or so, at 4:35, I'm going to be giving away a pair of tickets to see Rick Springfield. He's on the acoustic tour. He's going to be at Arlington Music Hall this Saturday, May 2nd. So I'm going to give away a pair of tickets in 40 minutes from now. If you want to go ahead and get your tickets and not, to take the risk, go to arlingtonmusichall.org. I'm James Parker. More James Show coming up next. Snooze Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. You know, if you ever wonder why we do so much weather, I think this week should hush the critics for a minute, because we lost a couple of our neighbors over the weekend in a tornado, and we had more that were injured. There was the terrible story on WFAA where some guy was retelling the story. His parents' house collapsed. Him and his brother had to go dig out his mom and his dad, and one of them had a broken back. The other one had a broken neck. So they're not even counted as fatalities, but I mean, this is serious stuff. And then last night, if you haven't seen what downtown Mineral Wells looks like right now, just go online and look for someone did a drone flyover, and it doesn't look real. It looks like a movie set. It looks like someone set that up. It's because tornadoes always surprise you in the fact that, unlike other natural disasters, if there's a blizzard, everyone in town's getting hit by the blizzard. If there's a hurricane, everyone in town's getting hit by the same hurricane. You know, if there's a drought or earthquake or whatever. But a tornado is very specific. It is maximum destruction on this little trail for as long as it's on the ground. And then when it lifts, it goes away. And so if you're, you know, maybe a half mile in either direction, you're fine. You didn't get the brunt of the force. But for those people that are in the path of the touchdown tornado, God help them. Because Mineral Wells, a few of those buildings downtown just look like a pile of sticks and bricks. Like, you can't even tell there was a building there. It looks like we just demolished something, or they did one of those controlled explosions. But there's just stuff everywhere, and it's so heartbreaking to see, because that's someone's hometown. Quick update, though, on the tornado in Mineral Wells from WFAA.
We're getting a good look now at some of the hardest hit areas there. And here is the very latest. Mineral Wells officials say the National Weather Service believes an EF2 tornado hit the community. 5 people were hurt and taken to the hospital, but there have been no reported deaths. Mineral Wells ISD schools are open today, but students who are dealing with damage at home will have an excused absence. The National Weather Service is there today looking and surveying the damage there. City leaders are grateful that it wasn't any worse and thank the quick work of first responders.
It was devastating to pull up and see that and not know, if people were inside those buildings that were collapsed, and, to find out that there was not, and that there was no injuries to that, how amazing is that? And
I texted them last night and told them that they're all rock stars, because they handled this with such professionalism and just driven to do the job. So I'm very grateful for that.
Here's some of the damage in Weatherford and Parker County. Just take a look at what's left of this mobile home. The man who lived there said he was lying in bed, and before he could even react, his roof blew away.
This is what it looks like. And that's where I was.
You were in that room?
I was in that room. I was sitting on that bed. And I said, take shelter. I stood up and I was like, there's my roof. There's my underpinning. There's my porch. There's my roof over there in that tree.
Yeah, and behind him was the very scarce remains of a single wide trailer. And I really don't get the jokes for people who are like, how come these things are always aiming for trailers? They're not. It's just the same. It doesn't take nearly as much wind and force to knock over a trailer. I mean, think about it. You have a house that's on a concrete slab, and it's made of bricks, and it's heavy, and it's actually attached to the ground. And then you have, which is basically a Dr. Pepper can on cinder blocks. So yeah, trailers are going to get hit significantly harder. The other follow-up, the Mineral Wells tornado now confirmed to be an EF3. Good Lord. So that's breaking news there for me. I don't know if you'd heard that already. The other thing that kind of ticks me off, speaking of severe weather, WFAA had an update on the Camp Mystic safety plan. Camp Mystic last year had the catastrophic flooding. We lost, I think it was 27, mostly campers, but some counselors as well. And big government doesn't know if they like the new safety plan, so they don't know if they're going to allow them to open. I really don't get this mindset at all. I really don't.
Right now, Texas lawmakers are getting an update on the investigation into Camp Mystic and its response during the deadly July 4th floods. It comes as the camp faces a new deadline to resubmit its safety plan if it wants to reopen this summer.
All right, I get having a safety plan. I don't get running it through government. You know who the safety plan needs to get the approval of? The owners of the property and their insurance company. These are the only two people with a stake in Camp Mystic. What, some guy that's on some panel that's some far away, that's never run a camp before, that isn't a civil engineer, that doesn't know about flooding, that probably has expertise in something else, probably a lawyer, maybe a doctor, maybe some IT guy. They have no expertise, and they have no culpability if something goes wrong. And it also assumes that the owners of Camp Mystic, the people in charge, are indifferent to the suffering and death of children. They're not monsters. Sure, a terrible tragedy happened, and it happened on their watch. Don't you think they have a built-in incentive for it to not happen again? This is kind of the same way I feel about government regulations of cars. They're like, well, we've got to put all these safety features on cars. You know who should care about safety features on cars? Me, because I'm driving it, and my insurance company, which is financially culpable if something goes wrong during my driving experience. But you can't tell me some pencil neck geek, some Hank Johnson who thinks Guam's going to get tipped over, gets elected by a bunch of mouth-breathing, low IQ voters in his terrible district, sends him to D.C., and he's going to write the rules for you? That can't be better. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, usually I make fun of the royal family of England, but they didn't do anything real embarrassing this time around, so we will have a benevolent review of King Charles' visit to the United States coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Monarchies are so dorky. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the James Show. Also, we are your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They were having some fun with the King's visit. So the King of Great Britain, United Kingdom, came to town, and I don't know if it was because of the 250th birthday, 250th divorce from your butt. Usually I make fun of the monarchs, but he was cool. I listened to his whole statement. He didn't say anything I find necessarily funny or offensive or even weird. He was actually really deferential and really complimentary and just glowing, flowing praise. I'd be a real jerk if I gave him a hard time after this speech he just gave us. But there's some weird things that are going on with the monarchy. Number one, the English monarch hasn't been English since like the 1400s. You realize that? You realize that like this dude's half German? It's so bizarre. And the monarchy, studying the monarchy, following the royal families and stuff, it used to be incredibly consequential. You know, you had one family, the Habsburgs, that ran most of Europe for about 800 years until they inbred themselves into mental shortcomings. I'm just trying to be nice here. And then you get into some other weird situations where you find out all the major belligerents in World War I are grandchildren of Queen Victoria of England, like Kaiser Wilhelm, and his cousin is married to the King of Russia at the time, Peter. Of course, the grandson is still on the throne and down in England. I think there was an Austrian in the mix. Like all these dudes are related. These days, totally ceremonial, totally inconsequential, no real power, just a guy walking around with a funny accent, wearing funny clothes with a bunch of medals on it. But he started off his speech giving props to our Secret Service for their quick action on Saturday.
Mr. President, First Lady, my wife and I are most grateful to you for your generous hospitality as the United States celebrates this very special anniversary year of the Declaration of Independence. And may I also just start by paying tribute to your own courage and steadfastness, as well as to your security services, for their swift actions on Saturday evening in preventing further injury. My thoughts...
Yeah, a round of applause for the Secret Service there. You know, he has that stuffy, posh accent that sounds just so effeminate. Like if we, when I was growing up in Buck Tussle, if you were an exchange student out there and that was your accent, you were going to have a hard time. You really were. We drove the German kid nuts, actually. We liked the German girl, but the German boy, he wanted to play soccer, and his name was Andreas, and we used to beat the snot out of that guy on the soccer field. But did you notice he actually said Saturday? Yeah, that's like the East Texas accent or the Texas accent. And, you know, we don't say Saturday. We say Saturday, Sunday, Friday. What's today? Wednesday, Monday. We always, D-E-E is how we say the end of the word instead of like it's spelled D-A-Y. He said it too. He said Saturday. Thought that was cool. The most posh, proper accent actually overlapped with my country mush mouth. Also, I liked at the end when he did the toast. He did a toast to the U.S. and the U.K.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mrs. Trump, for your splendid dinner this evening, which, may I say, is a very...
Hang on. Do I need to start saying splendid more often? I don't say splendid enough. Because I like that and I like the, may I say.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mrs. Trump, for your splendid dinner this evening, which, may I say, is a very considerable improvement on the Boston Tea Party. So, whether your cup contains tea, wine, Scotch whiskey, bourbon, or even cola, let us raise our glasses and voices as we toast the past, the present, and the future, thank you, of our two proud and allied nations. To the United States and the United Kingdom, God bless both our countries.
Yes. And then he did a keg stand. Just throwing that out there. Donald Trump also had some kind words on the relationship, the special relationship between the United States and England.
History has known no more powerful force than the combination of American patriotism and British pride. The British Empire that began here in America certainly did not end here. The sons and daughters of the British Isles went on to found more countries and spread more civilization than any nation before. They built an English-speaking world upon which the sun never sets and provided an example to which free people will always turn, that always turn. They have such love and such respect. Today, most of Britain's former colonies have no idea what they truly owe to this towering legacy of law, liberty, and British custom that they were given. We were given that, and it was a great, great gift. Tonight, on the eve of our 250th year of cherished independence, we turn to the sovereign embodiment of our British heritage and say sincerely thank you to our friends, the United Kingdom, for the richest inheritance that any nation has ever given to another.
A lot of people say bad things about the British Empire, and while, like any human endeavor, it was flawed and had its problems, no one brought more civilization to uncivilized parts of the world than the British Empire. No one did more to finally end the scourge of slavery, which had existed throughout the human condition for all of history until the English Empire got serious about it. No one has done more for education of the common people around the world, literacy, and human rights than the British Empire. And then once we got rolling and we were joining the fight together, the number one force for good on planet Earth, United States, and what's left of the British Empire, England, really the English-speaking world. Where do women have the right to vote? Where did they first get the right to vote? Where did people first get the right to vote? You remember 300 years ago, nobody was voting for their leaders. Now it's the norm. Who did that? Who started it? Whose ideas were they? Whether it's Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations, whether it's John Locke, Hume, all of these Enlightenment thinkers, English common law, the Magna Carta, and then through us, Declaration of Independence. We are the greatest thing that ever happened to the human experience. All right, coming up next, we have a special midweek edition of Dead or Alive. We didn't do it on Monday because we were in a bunch of, assassination talk, and we didn't think Dead or Alive was cool. But the promo department's like, hey, you still have these Rick Springfield tickets to give out. You want to give them away? Sure, so we'll do it next. If you want to go see Rick Springfield, he has a concert coming up this weekend, Saturday, May 2nd. It's going to be at Arlington Music Hall, and it is an acoustic tour. If you want to see Rick Springfield stripped down acoustic live in Arlington this weekend, call in right now. It's the easy game show, Dead or Alive. I'm going to tell you 10 celebrities. You have to tell me if they're dead or alive. Today's category, since Jesse's Girl came out in 1981, my category today is the top movies of 1981. Out of the top 10 movies of 1981, out of each one of those, I picked one of the top actors, and you have to tell me if they're dead or alive. So call in right now, 800-288-9227, and maybe you can win some Rick Springfield tickets. 800-288-9227. Dead or Alive, next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Who even is Jesse's girl? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. About to give away some tickets to see Rick Springfield. We're doing the rare midweek edition of Dead or Alive. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. And welcome to today's edition of Dead or Alive. This is the game show on The James Show where I'm going to name 10 celebrities. You have to tell me if they're dead or alive. James, that sounds easy. It is! Today's category is the top movies of 1981. Our tickets, our prize, is tickets to see Rick Springfield. This Saturday, May 2nd, he's going to be at Arlington Music Hall. It's the Stripped Down Acoustic Tour. For the rest of you, get tickets and information at arlingtonmusichall.org. But Jesse's Girl came out in 1981, so I took the top movies of 1981. And one of the main actors out of there, you're going to tell me if they're dead or alive. It really is that easy. What is going on? This is almost all women. It's usually the opposite. It's usually like 4 guys and 1 lady. Now it's 4 ladies and 1 guy. All right, ladies, I guess y'all like Rick Springfield. Stephanie in Fort Worth, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. And Rick Springfield is pretty, so yeah.
I hear it from the ladies. I think my mom's a big fan. I'm not sure if Miss Parker is a big fan, but all right. So you think he's handsome? Let's see if we can get you some tickets.
Okay.
All right. The number 1 movie in 1981 was Raiders of the Lost Ark. The guy who played Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. Is he dead or alive?
He's alive.
He is alive. The second biggest movie, according to Wikipedia, was a movie called On Golden Pond. One of the main stars, Henry Fonda, dead or alive?
He's dead.
Superman 2 was the number 3 movie that year. The guy who played Superman, Christopher Reeve, dead or alive?
He's dead.
Number 4 movie was Arthur, the little drinking guy. He was drunk the whole time. He was played by Dudley Moore. Is Dudley Moore dead or alive?
Ooh, tough one. Dead?
Died in 2002. He's been dead for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. The next one, the number 5 movie of 1981 was Stripes. Bill Murray, dead or alive?
Alive.
75 years old. His co-star Harold Ramis passed away. I didn't know which one to put in there. I just like Bill Murray better. All right, Stephanie in Fort Worth, you're kicking butt. You're halfway through. The number 6 movie of 1981, Cannonball Run. The main star there, Burt Reynolds, dead or alive?
Dead.
Burt Reynolds died in 2018. The next movie, the number 7 movie, I never saw this one. Chariots of Fire. Now, in Chariots of Fire, what are you breathing so hard for?
It's such a good movie.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it. Do I need to see this?
You should.
Okay. Well, one of the main 2 guys, the actor's name is Ian Charleson. Is he dead or alive?
Oh, British guy. Dead.
Yeah, he died in 1990. Kind of young there. The next movie, the number 8 movie of 1981, a James Bond movie, For Your Eyes Only. James Bond was played by Roger Moore. Is he dead or alive?
I don't know. Dead.
Yes, you were correct. Just want to hang out there. I am so sorry to all you people on hold. Stephanie in Fort Worth is just holding it down, and I can't stop her. Kathy, Kelly, Stephanie, Braden, sorry. We only have 2 left here. I can't believe you haven't missed one. The number 9 movie in 1981 is called The Four Seasons. The main female lead was played by Carol Burnett. Is she dead or alive?
She's alive still.
93 years old. I can't trip you up for nothing. And the last movie, the number 10 movie in 1981 was called Time Bandits. One of the main characters in that one, Sean Connery. Is he dead or alive?
Oh, Sean Connery. I think he's also dead. I don't know.
Well, that's no fun. No one else got to play. Stephanie in Fort Worth, you have won 2 tickets to see Rick Springfield. Are you able to go this Saturday? Because it's coming up in just like 3 days.
Absolutely, positively.
Okay, well, I'm going to put you on hold. Good Garrett will get your information, and we will email you the tickets. I'm so sorry to all you other people. Like Kathy and Venus, you hung on hold there. Were you just cussing Stephanie the whole time?
No.
Did you know all of those?
She knew all of those.
What about
I
you?
missed one of them. I would have missed one of them, yeah, but that was it.
Yeah, I think I would have missed
the
the
rest of them.
Carol Burnett one. I haven't seen her in like 20 years. I just assumed she's gone. But no, I looked it up right before we went on. She's with us. All right, Kathy, I wish I had more tickets to give you. The rest of us got to go to arlingtonmusichall.org. But thanks for calling in, Kathy.
Well, thank you. Bye.
All right. So Stephanie's our big winner in that one. Congratulations. Just be nice if other people got to play sometime. Coming up next. The state of Texas is suing some trucking companies over foreign truckers who can't even speak English. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Do truckers need to speak English? Well, of course they do. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. But I love the discussions that are had in some of the news outlets and online where they present this like, well, this is a controversial move we're making here. Making sure the truckers, people that are driving around this 100-ton machine, something that weighs 400,000 pounds, blowing right past you at 80 miles an hour, you don't think it'd be somehow beneficial to the public safety if they could read the signs? This is like one of the dumbest controversies we have. But it's also one that we could actually lose this one. Like, you can't lose the conversation on, you know, the men and women sports. You know, the people will be like, well, there's no biological difference between men and women. That one doesn't upset me. All right, go ahead. Let them play together. I'm not going to lose the argument. It's going to be a fun couple of Olympics until y'all get your head screwed on straight. But I'm not worried about losing that one. On this one, yeah, we could lose this one. There are people who just don't get it. How dare you discriminate against people for what? Not being able to be safe on the road? That seems like a worthy point of discrimination. Brandon Waltons from Texas Scorecard breaks down the new lawsuit.
Attorney General Ken Paxton is investigating several trucking schools accused of certifying unqualified commercial drivers, including those who might not be proficient in English. The investigation targets multiple CDL training providers across the state. Paxton's office says some schools may be cutting corners on training, misleading students about certification, or telling applicants that English proficiency is not required. Paxton says putting non-English speakers behind the wheel of 18-wheelers can pose serious public safety risks, and added that only qualified English-speaking truckers should be operating commercial vehicles on Texas roads.
Here's a hot opinion for you. We should never issue any H-1B or any immigration visa for a trucker job. You understand that? That is the dumbest use of our immigration system possible. The only thing you could possibly be doing there is supplanting an American worker with cheaper foreign labor. Trucking is one of the backbones, it's the social safety net, especially where I'm from. You know how many guys were working at like the plant, or they were working at the factory and they got laid off, and so their family didn't get kicked out of their house. They were able to just turn around and immediately start driving a truck. Why? Because we can all read road signs. So we have a leg up on everyone who was born in a foreign country who didn't grow up reading English road signs and doesn't speak the language. But the trucking industry isn't high paying because it's a difficult job as far as the skills and mentally and the physical dexterity goes. It's a hard job because of the lifestyle. It's a hard job because most people don't want to be away from their family most of the time. You're going to go out there and you're going to work, you know, like you work 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. Even if you work 10 hours a day, you get to go home at night. You get to see your family. You get to see your kids. You get to see your dog. You get to go to your refrigerator when you want a snack and it has your snacks in it and your drinks in it. You get to see your wife. I mean, you might actually get to, you know, see your wife. But the horrible thing about trucking is, what, are you sleeping in the back of the truck more often than you're sleeping at home? Who wants that lifestyle? When you're off work, you're still not home most of the time. When you're on a run and you're off work, you're sleeping in the back of a truck in the parking lot of some Buc-ee's or TA in the middle of nowhere. Terrible lifestyle, very lonely. It's tough. The lifestyle is the tough part. But hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of American men made that sacrifice because while their lifestyle is absolutely terrible, for the people that really matter in their life, their family, oh, it matters. It's totally worth it. All the suffering is worth it. That's what a man's life is for. We don't live for ourselves. We live for other people. And now you're taking that away. Now if you get laid off, now if the plant closes down or your job gets shipped overseas, now if your career no longer exists, you can't fall back to trucking because you would be, doing that entire lifestyle to make, $40,000 a year? Well, that's not going to keep you from getting foreclosed on. That's not maintaining your standard of living. Now you don't even have the social safety net. So doesn't that stink? So now you have immigrants who are coming in, They're looting the taxpayers from the Leering Center, from daycares, from home health care, from food stamps, from all of these programs. They're just absolutely gutting you when you're working. And for the few that are working, they're taking your jobs and the fallback jobs of the least among us. This isn't the elite bourgeois liberals that are getting their jobs taken from them. This is the regular everyman. This is the lowest among us that are facing the negative consequences of this. And if we can't put our foot down and be like, this is ridiculous that we're allowing foreigners to come in here and be truckers, then we just have to admit that we really don't care about the common man. If you're okay with that, because who does like that? Who does like the ability for foreigners to come in here under the slightest H-1B cause and undercut American workers' wages? Who likes that? The people who own these businesses, the elites, the rich, the people that we're told that, Team Blue is fighting against, but all their policies tend to support them. The trucking company wins. The evil multi-millionaire that runs the trucking company there, or that runs the meat processing plant, or that runs whatever jobs that they're coming in and taking from you. Oh, those guys are winning hand over fist. So they're going to tell you, yeah, we got to make things fair. The rich need to pay their fair share, and we're going to hold the rich to account. No, you're not. You are the party of the rich. They love your policies. That's why they vote for you. That's why they donate to you. That's why they're on Team Blue. RL, Fort Worth. You're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James, you could really start a house fire with this thing. First of all, there's been a whole bunch of mom and pop and 100-year-old trucking companies go out of business in the last 5 years for this very thing. Second of all, most of these schools are run by, I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that, or misogynist or anything else, but a lot of them are run by minority women that have no experience whatsoever in a truck. They hire retired truck drivers to train these guys. Second of all, NAFTA was the worst thing that ever happened in this country, and I'm 25 years heavy haul. Dallas, Fort Worth to San Antonio is a meat grinder every day, all day long. You see Mexican drivers, and I have nothing against Mexican people at all. I prefer them. I love them.
Well, I think I'll get where you're going. If we run out of rocket scientists and we have to import somebody from the other side of the planet to help build rockets, that makes sense. If we run out of like brain surgeons or something, I understand there's only a handful of them. But most grown men could be trained to drive a truck pretty quick.
Because in Austin, Texas, 6 months ago, a foreign driver from
American
Guatemala.
men. I know what you're talking about, RL. I think I should have said that better because I did leave it a little ambiguous. Those jobs would be for American men, and it's not.
There again, the companies you already stated it. The rich, the freight fees for the independents have gone to nothing because the foreigners will do it for nothing, and then they'll get on welfare, and the people that are independents don't want to be on welfare, but everybody else wants to be on welfare and get and undercut us, and they're taking all these jobs away. And it's not just happening in trucking; it's happening everywhere, and you know that. I mean, you're smart.
Oh yeah, RL, appreciate it, sir. I'm just out of time. Thank you. All right, WeatherCon's coming up on Saturday. I want to see you out there. I'm going to be there when it opens at 9:30. The first 200 people get a swag bag with some WeatherCon merch in there, including a pretty sweet looking hat. So come on out there, say hi, meet me, judge me based on my appearance. Hal J will be there. Brad Barton will be there. Matt Locke will be there. You're going to meet Sybil from KLIF, Clayton from KLIF. So it'll be a good time. Come on out to WeatherCon. It's happening at the Frontiers of Flight Museum over by Dallas Love Field this Saturday. Also, you can get $30 tickets to some of the hottest shows this year. It's for the Summer of Live Music. All you got to do is go to livenation.com/Summer of Live. We're talking about Jimmy Eat World, Guns N' Roses, Billy Idol, Motley Crue, Tim McGraw, more. It's only running through May 5th. So go to livenation.com/Summer of Live. Stay put. Mark Levin's coming up next. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.